The man who controlled everything, the morning sun reflected off the glass walls of Hayes Tower, casting geometric shadows across the marble lobby 50 floors below. Inside the corner office, Dominic Hayes stood perfectly still. His tailored charcoal suit fitting his athletic frame like it had been designed specifically for this moment. At 38, it built Hayes Global Industries from his father's modest construction company into a technology and real estate empire worth $8 billion. His dark brown hair showed the first hints of silver at the temples, and his sharp green eyes rarely missed a detail worth noticing. Everything in Dominic's world existed in perfect order. His morning routine never varied by more than 3 minutes. His meetings ran exactly on schedule. His decisions were calculated months in advance, and his emotions stayed locked away where they belonged, safely hidden from anyone who might use them as a weakness. That morning should have been like every other Tuesday. The quarterly reports showed record profits. The Seattle expansion was ahead of schedule. The tech division had just secured 3 major contracts that would change the industry. But Dominic found himself staring at his computer screen, unable to focus on the numbers that usually commanded his complete attention. "Your coffee, Mr. Hayes." The voice belonged to Mia Bennett, and it carried the same calm efficiency that had made her irreplaceable over the past 18 months. She placed the ceramic mug on his desk with practiced precision, exactly where he preferred it, hot but not scalding, black with just a touch of cream that softened the bitterness without overwhelming the flavor. Dominic glanced up, and as always, something in his chest tightened at the sight of her. Mia was 27, long chestnut hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail that revealed her intelligent brown eyes and the gentle curve of her neck. She wore a navy blazer over a white blouse, professional and polished. Yet somehow she made corporate attire look effortlessly elegant. There was a warmth about her that softened the cold edges of his world, a genuine kindness that showed in every interaction. Whether she was coordinating with Fortune 500 executives or helping the newest intern find the supply closet. "The Anderson presentation is ready for your review," Mia continued, placing a leather folder beside his coffee. "I added the sustainability metrics you mentioned, wanting to emphasize. Also, your mother called about Thanksgiving dinner. She's hoping you'll confirm your attendance before the end of the week." Dominic nodded, fighting the urge to let his gaze linger on her face. "Tell her I'll be there, and the Anderson file looks thorough, as always." "Actually," Mia said, and something in her tone made him look at her more carefully, "I wanted to remind you that I'll be taking this Friday through Monday off. My college friends and I planned a trip to Charleston months ago, and with everything that's been happening, I almost forgot to mention it." The news hit Dominic with unexpected force. For days without Mia felt impossible, though he would never admit it out loud. She had become so essential to his daily routine that her absence would create a void he didn't want to acknowledge. "Charleston," he repeated, keeping his voice neutral. "That sounds nice. You deserve some time away." Mia's smile brightened her entire face, and Dominic memorized the way her eyes crinkled at the corners. "Thank you. Rachel is getting married next spring. We're doing the bachelorette weekend early, since her fiancé's military deployment schedule is complicated. It'll be good to see everyone again." After she left his office, Dominic tried to return his attention to the quarterly projections. But his mind kept wandering to images of Mia in Charleston, walking through historic streets, laughing with friends, experiencing joy that had nothing to do with him or his company. The thought should have made him happy for her. Instead, it filled him with an emotion he refused to name. The weekend that changed everything, Friday arrived with the usual corporate chaos. Dominic spent the morning in back-to-back meetings, each one requiring his full attention and strategic insight. But part of his mind kept drifting to Mia's empty desk visible through his office's glass walls. James Patterson, his CFO, noticed his distraction during the afternoon strategy session. "Everything all right, Dominic? You seem somewhere else today." "Fine," Dominic replied curtly, returning his focus to the acquisition proposal before them. "Continue with the Vancouver projections." That evening, alone in his penthouse apartment overlooking Central Park, Dominic poured himself a scotch and tried to enjoy the silence. His home was a masterpiece of modern design, all clean lines and expensive art, but it felt emptier than usual. He told himself the feeling was ridiculous, that Mia was his assistant, not his companion. And her absence shouldn't affect him this way. Then his phone buzzed with a social media notification. Dominic rarely checked his personal accounts, leaving that responsibility to his public relations team. But something made him open the app, and his breath caught when he saw the new post. The photo showed Mia on a Charleston beach at sunset. Her hair loose and wild around her shoulders, her face radiant with genuine happiness. She wore a simple yellow sundress, and she was laughing at something off camera. But what made Dominic's heart stop was the man visible beside her in the frame. Tall, blonde, with an easy smile, and his hand casually resting near her shoulder. They looked natural together, comfortable, like two people who belonged in each other's orbit. The caption read, "Sometimes the best adventures are the unplanned ones." Grateful for old friends and new memories? Dominic stared at the image until his vision blurred. He had spent 18 months convincing himself that his feelings for Mia were simply professional appreciation, that the way his day brightened when she entered a room was just recognition of her competence, that the careful distance he maintained was about appropriate workplace boundaries, not fear of his own emotions. But seeing her like this, glowing with happiness that existed completely separate from him, shattered every lie he had told himself. He loved her. Desperately, completely, impossibly loved her, and he was about to lose her to someone who could offer what he never had. The freedom to simply be happy without the weight of his complicated world crushing everything beautiful. The decision at 11:30 that night, Dominic did something he had never done in his entire career. He called James Patterson and told him to clear his schedule for the next 3 days. Every meeting, every call, every commitment that defined his existence as CEO of Hayes Global Industries. "Dominic, what's going on?" James asked, his voice thick with concern and sleep. "Are you okay? Is this about the Frankfurt merger?" "Cancel everything," Dominic repeated, already pulling clothes from his closet with shaking hands. "I don't care about the excuse you use. Health issue, family emergency, spontaneous business opportunity. Just handle it. You're scaring me. This isn't like you at all." "I know," Dominic said quietly, catching his reflection in the bedroom mirror. He looked wild, desperate, nothing like the controlled executive who had addressed shareholders that morning. "But for once in my life, I'm going to do something that isn't calculated or strategic or sensible. I'm going to do something real." After hanging up, Dominic booked a private flight to Charleston, packed a bag without his usual methodical planning, and left his penthouse at midnight. As his car navigated the empty Manhattan streets toward the private airport, he felt something crack open in his chest. Fear, hope, and the terrifying vulnerability of finally admitting what he wanted. More than any business success or financial achievement, he wanted Mia Bennett. Not as his assistant, not as the person who made his life run smoothly, but as his partner, his love. The woman who made him want to be more than just the cold strategist who conquered. Markets. The flight to Charleston took 2 hours, during which Dominic sat in the leather cabin seat, staring at Mia's photo on his phone. The man beside her probably had an uncomplicated life, probably offered her easy affection and simple happiness, probably deserved her in ways that Dominic, with his emotional walls and controlling nature, never could. But as the plane descended toward Charleston in the pre-dawn darkness, Dominic made himself a promise. He would tell Mia the truth about his feelings. He would give her the choice, even if she chose someone else. Because loving her meant wanting her happiness more than his own comfort. And if that meant losing her completely, then at least he would have been brave enough to try. Charleston morning. The sunrise painted Charleston's historic district in shades of gold and amber as Dominic stood outside the Magnolia Cafe, his heart hammering against his ribs. Through the large windows, he could see Mia sitting with Rachel and another woman he didn't recognize, all three laughing over breakfast. Mia wore a soft coral dress that made her skin glow, her hair loose and natural, in a way he'd never seen during their 18 months of working together. She looked like spring itself, warm and alive and impossibly beautiful. For several long minutes, Dominic simply watched her exist in this world that had nothing to do with him. She gestured animatedly while telling a story, her face lighting up with genuine joy. When she laughed, throwing her head back without self-consciousness, something in Dominic's chest cracked open. This was the real Mia Bennett, the woman she'd been before becoming his indispensable assistant, before molding herself to fit the demanding shape of his world. His phone buzzed insistently in his pocket. James calling again, probably with another crisis report. The board was likely in full panic mode. Major clients were demanding explanations. His carefully constructed empire was experiencing its first real tremor in a decade. But Dominic couldn't bring himself to care about any of it. Not when Mia was 30 feet away, radiant with the kind of happiness he'd never given her. The confrontation taking a deep breath that felt like his first in days, Dominic pushed open the cafe door. The small bell above it chimed cheerfully, and 3 heads turned in his direction. Mia's eyes widened in shock, her coffee cup freezing halfway to her lips. The color drained from her face, then flooded back in a rush. "Dominic," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the cafe's morning chatter. "What are you doing here?" Rachel and her companion exchanged quick glances, then Rachel stood smoothly. "We'll just give you to some privacy. Come on, Brooke." She grabbed the other woman's arm, practically dragging her away from the table. Though both women kept glancing back with undisguised curiosity, Dominic approached Mia's table slowly, as if she might bolt if he moved too quickly. He felt exposed without his usual armor of expensive suits and corporate confidence. His white shirt was wrinkled, his hair disheveled, and he probably looked exactly like what he was, a man who had abandoned everything to chase the one thing that mattered. "I saw your post," he said quietly, sliding into the chair Rachel had vacated. The photo from the harbor. Mia's hands trembled slightly as she set down her coffee cup. "You came all the way to Charleston because of a social media post?" "I came because seeing you that happy, that free, made me realize I've been lying to myself for 18 months. Dominic's green eyes held hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. "I came because the thought of you building a life that doesn't include me terrified me more than anything else ever has." "Dominic, I don't understand." Mia's voice carried confusion and something that might have been hope. "You've never even hinted that you felt anything beyond professional appreciation because I was a coward." The admission came out raw and honest. "Because men like me don't get to want things we can't control. Because loving you meant risking everything I'd built, and I convinced myself the risk was too great." The word loving hung between them like a confession that changed everything. Mia stared at him, her brown eyes searching his face for any sign that she'd misheard. The truth revealed the man in the photo, Dominic continued, his voice rougher now. "Is he someone you're seeing?" Despite the tension, Mia almost laughed. "Tyler? He's Rachel's cousin. He was our tour guide yesterday." "Dominic, there's nothing romantic between us. He spent the entire boat ride talking about his fiancée who's stationed overseas with the Navy." The relief that flooded Dominic's features was almost comical. "I've spent the last 12 hours convinced I'd lost you to someone who could offer you an uncomplicated life. Someone who doesn't bring chaos and corporate drama and impossible demands." "You haven't lost me," Mia said softly. "But Dominic, I need you to understand something. I can't be your assistant anymore if we're going to explore whatever this is between us. I won't be the woman people whisper about, wondering if I earned my position on merit or because I'm sleeping with the boss." "I know." Dominic reached across the table, his hand hovering near hers but not quite touching. "I've already thought about that. Hayes Global needs a new head of creative development. Someone to oversee our rebranding initiative and expansion into sustainable housing. It would be a lateral move in terms of visibility, but with significant autonomy and a substantial increase in compensation." Mia pulled her hand back, her expression cooling. "You're already making executive decisions about my career?" Dominic winced, recognizing his mistake immediately. "I'm sorry." "That's not what I meant. I just wanted you to know that there are options, that this doesn't have to end your professional growth." "What I need," Mia said firmly, "is for you to stop trying to solve this like it's a business problem. What I need is for you to tell me why you really had me investigated 3 months ago." The question hit Dominic like a physical blow. His face went pale. "How did you know about that?" "Your background check company sent a confirmation email to the wrong address. One of your IT people caught it and mentioned it to me, thinking I'd commissioned it for a new hire." Mia's voice was steady, but pain flickered in her eyes. You had strangers digging through my financial history, my medical records, my personal life. Why? The vulnerable truth. Dominic stood abruptly, running his hands through his hair in a gesture of pure frustration. Can we talk somewhere more private, please? Mia studied him for a long moment, then nodded. She left money on the table for her breakfast and followed him outside. They walked in tense silence toward the waterfront, the morning sun warming the cobblestone streets beneath their feet. At Battery Park, with Charleston Harbor stretching before them, Dominic finally stopped. He gripped the iron railing overlooking the water, his knuckles white. My father died of a heart attack when I was 25, he said quietly. Sudden, unexpected, devastating. He was talking to my mother one moment, gone the next. And watching her try to survive that loss, watching her crumble under the weight of loving someone so completely that losing them destroyed her, it terrified me. Mia moved closer, her anger softening into something gentler. When I started having feelings for you, Dominic continued, real feelings that went beyond attraction or professional respect, I panicked. I commissioned that background check not because I suspected you of anything, but because I needed to convince myself that what I felt was rational, that you were exactly who you seemed to be, that loving you wouldn't end in the kind of devastation I watched destroy my mother. So you investigated me like a potential security threat, Mia said softly. Yes, and it was wrong. It was a violation of your privacy and your trust, and I've regretted it every day since.
Oh.
Dominic turned to face her fully. But Mia, the investigation didn't tell me anything I didn't already know. It didn't explain why your voice is the first thing I want to hear in the morning. It didn't quantify how much lighter my days feel when you smile. It couldn't measure the fact that somewhere along the way, you stopped being my assistant and became the person I can't imagine my life without. Tears welled in Mia's eyes, despite her efforts to hold them back. You hurt me, Dominic. You made me feel like I was a problem to be solved, rather than a person to be trusted. I know, and I'm sorry. Truly, deeply sorry. Dominic took a step closer. But I'm here now, asking for a chance to do better. To be better. To prove that I can love you the way you deserve, with trust and respect and all the vulnerability that terrifies me. Mia looked at him, really looked at him. This man who controlled billion-dollar empires was standing before her, disheveled and desperate and more real than she'd ever seen him. His walls were down, his careful masks abandoned, and what remained was simply Dominic, flawed and human and genuinely in love. I've loved you for over a year, she admitted quietly. Every late night in your office felt like stolen intimacy. Every moment when our eyes met across a conference room made my heart race. But I convinced myself you could never see me as anything more than the person who organized your life. Mia, I've always seen you. Dominic reached out, his fingers gently brushing her cheek. I just didn't have the courage to act on it until I thought I might lose you. Before Mia could respond, both their phones began buzzing simultaneously. Dominic glanced at his screen and his expression darkened. It's James and the board, and apparently half of New York's financial press. Mia checked her own phone, her eyes widening. Someone photographed you arriving at the Charleston airport. It's already trending on social media. They're calling it everything from a midlife crisis to corporate instability. The real world was crashing back in, demanding attention, but for once, Dominic didn't immediately reach for his phone to start damage control. Instead, he looked at Mia with a question in his eyes. What do we do now? She asked. We figure it out together, he said simply. Starting with this. And then Dominic Hayes, billionaire, CEO, and master of control, did something completely reckless. He kissed Mia Bennett in the middle of Battery Park, with tourists taking photos and the whole world about to come crashing down around them. And for the first time in his carefully constructed life, he didn't care about the consequences. The return to reality, the flight back to New York. It felt like traveling between two different universes. Charleston represented freedom, honesty, and the simple joy of being together. New York meant scrutiny, consequences, and the harsh judgment of a world that would dissect every aspect of their relationship. Mia sat beside Dominic in the private jet, their hands intertwined, but the tension between them grew with each passing mile. The stock price dropped 4%, Dominic said. Scrolling through his tablet with his free hand, 3 major clients have requested emergency meetings, and the board has called a special session for tomorrow morning. Mia watched his face, seeing the familiar mask of control starting to slip back into place. Are you regretting this already? Never, Dominic said firmly, squeezing her hand. But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't worried about what happens next. Not for me, but for you. The media attention alone is going to be intense. As if summoning his words into reality, Mia's phone buzzed with a notification. Her younger sister Grace had sent a screenshot of a gossip website. The headline read, "Hayes Global CEO abandons empire for mystery woman. Who is she?" They're already digging, Mia said quietly, showing him the screen. Grace says reporters have been calling our parents' house. My old college roommates are getting friend requests from journalists. This is happening fast. Dominic's jaw tightened. I can have my legal team issue cease and desist orders. We can get restraining orders if necessary, and prove every critic right about you trying to control everything. Mia pulled her hand free gently. Dominic, we need to face this head on, not hide behind lawyers and corporate power. The board meeting stormed the Hayes Global boardroom felt like a tribunal when Dominic entered at 7 the next morning. 12 board members sat around the mahogany table, their expressions ranging from concerned to hostile. James Patterson looked exhausted, clearly having spent the night doing damage control. But it was Kevin Nash, the company's oldest board member and Dominic's longtime adversary. Who spoke first? Well, Dominic, I hope your romantic getaway was worth it, Kevin said with barely concealed contempt. Because you've managed to destabilize this company in less than 48 hours? The Richardson deal is dead. Tokyo is reconsidering the merger, and our shareholders are demanding answers. The Richardson deal was overpriced and poorly structured, Dominic replied calmly, taking his seat at the head of the table. My absence simply accelerated an inevitable conclusion. Your absence, Kevin shot back, was to chase after your assistant. An employee under your direct supervision? Do you have any idea how this looks? The legal implications alone could be catastrophic. Jennifer Wu, one of the board's more reasonable members, raised her hand diplomatically. Kevin, let's not rush to judgment. Dominic, can you help us understand the situation? The media reports are calling this everything from a mental breakdown to corporate negligence. Dominic took a deep breath, preparing to defend his actions. But before he could speak, the boardroom door opened and Mia walked in, dressed in a sharp navy suit, her hair pulled back professionally. Every inch the competent executive. Excuse me, Kevin said coldly. This is a private board meeting. Actually, Mia said calmly, placing a leather portfolio on the table. I'm here to submit my formal resignation from Hayes Global Industries, effective immediately. I'm also here to provide clarification about the nature of my relationship with Mr. Hayes. Dominic stared at her in shock. They hadn't discussed this. Mia, you don't have to do this. Yes, I do, she said softly, meeting his eyes with quiet determination. Because this is the only way forward that protects both of us. The truth exposed Mia addressed the board with the same calm efficiency she'd brought to 18 months of managing Dominic's impossible schedule. For the record, my relationship with Dominic Hayes began 4 days ago in Charleston. Nothing inappropriate occurred during my employment. Every promotion, every salary increase, every responsibility I received was earned through merit and documented performance reviews. That's easy to claim, Kevin interrupted. But how can we trust that your judgment wasn't compromised? That company decisions weren't influenced by personal feelings? Because I have documentation, Mia replied, opening her portfolio. Complete records of every project I worked on, every decision I recommended, and the measurable outcomes of those recommendations. Hayes Global's efficiency improved by 32% during my tenure. Client satisfaction increased by 18%. Meeting scheduling conflicts decreased by 45%. Those numbers speak for themselves. Jennifer Wu leaned forward, studying the documents Mia was distributing. This is impressively thorough. But the question remains, how do we handle the optics of this situation? By being honest, Dominic said, standing to face the board. I fell in love with someone who happens to work for me. I handled it poorly by keeping it hidden instead of addressing it professionally. But I won't apologize for my feelings. And I won't allow this board to punish Mia for something that's entirely my responsibility. Noble speech, Kevin said acidly. But the reality is that you've shown catastrophically poor judgment. You abandoned major business deals to chase after a romantic interest. That's not leadership, it's instability. Actually, James Patterson spoke up for the first time, his voice carrying unexpected strength. The Richardson deal was going to fail regardless. I've been reviewing the numbers, and Dominic was right. We would have overpaid by at least $30 million. His absence forced us to take a harder look at the terms, and we're now negotiating a much better arrangement. Kevin's expression soured. You're defending this circus? I'm defending results, James replied. Hayes Global has tripled its value under Dominic's leadership. One weekend doesn't erase a decade of extraordinary success. The unexpected twist as the board debated, Dominic's phone buzzed with an urgent message from his security team. He glanced at it and his face went pale. We have a bigger problem than my personal life. He projected his phone screen onto the boardroom display. It showed financial transactions, offshore accounts, and email correspondence. For the past 6 months, someone has been systematically leaking confidential company information to our competitors. Trade secrets, acquisition targets, strategic plans, everything. The room fell silent as board members absorbed the implications. Kevin Nash's face had gone ashen. The leak, Dominic continued, has been traced to an email account belonging to Kevin Nash. That's absurd, Kevin sputtered. This is obviously a fabrication to distract from your misconduct, is it? Mia stepped forward, pulling out another document. Because I noticed irregularities in document access logs 3 months ago. Confidential files were being opened at odd hours, always from Kevin's login credentials. I flagged it for the IT security team, and they've been quietly investigating ever since. Jennifer Wu stood abruptly. Kevin, is this true? I want to speak with my attorney, Kevin said. His earlier confidence completely evaporated. The board meeting descended into chaos as the real scandal emerged. Kevin Nash, it turned out, had been accepting payments from Blackwell Industries, Hayes Global's primary competitor. His attacks on Dominic's relationship were a desperate attempt to create a distraction from his own betrayal. 6 months later, the rooftop garden of Mia's new photography studio overlooked the Manhattan skyline. She'd spent the past 6 months building her dream business, documenting stories of people rebuilding their lives after major transitions. Her work had been featured in 3 major publications. And she had more clients than she could handle. Dominic appeared in the doorway, carrying 2 cups of coffee. Your 3 o'clock canceled. Something about her divorce being finalized and needing to celebrate instead. Good for her, Mia said, smiling as he handed her the coffee. How was your board meeting? Productive. The Tokyo expansion is ahead of schedule, and the new sustainable housing initiative is generating incredible buzz. Jennifer Wu asked about you, by the way. She wants to know if you'd consider consulting on our community outreach programs. Mia considered it. After resigning from Hayes Global, she'd been careful to maintain professional boundaries. But consulting work that didn't compromise her independence was different. Maybe I'll think about it. Dominic pulled her close, kissing her forehead. No pressure. I love that you built this on your own terms. We built this, Mia corrected. You took the risk of being honest about your feelings. I took the risk of trusting you again. We both chose vulnerability over control as the sun set over New York City, casting gold and amber light across the rooftop garden. Dominic and Mia stood together. Their relationship hadn't been easy. The media scrutiny had been intense, and there were still people who questioned their story. But they'd faced it together with honesty and trust and the kind of love that was worth every risk.